My allergies are holding me back today.
Yes.
Okay, we're live.
We are live.
There we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the InnerStrength Empowerment Hour. I just noticed that LT and I are matching.
Yes, orange, War Eagle.
So on Fridays, we wear orange. On Wednesdays, we wear pink, obviously. But thank you, everyone, for joining in with myself, LT, and Joanne as we talk today about how your self-talk is holding you back. And the three of us, and I know most of you have a lot of experience with this, even if it's something you haven't really thought about before. And I would say that I didn't really think about it. I knew I was down on myself, but I kind of just thought, you know, once I accomplished some things and once I lost the weight, that would turn around. So I wasn't really thinking about it in the proper terms. And so that's why this is so important, because when your self-talk really starts to change, that is when your life starts to change, not the other way around. And so I apologize for being a little late this morning. So my dog is out early, and he's 14. And he has now decided that he's going to get up every hour on the hour, starting at 3 a.m. He's not only going to get up, but he's going to do wind sprints.
Okay.
So, yeah. So it's basically like having an infant. And so I had an opportunity to get a little extra sleep this morning, and I overdid it just a bit. So there you have it, a little glimpse into my life and my beef with McLovin. So, but be sure to, as you are, tuning in today, ask questions and make comments, because we really love for you to interact. It's important to us for this to be a conversation. And we will definitely respond to you. And even if you ask questions on the replay, we always come back and look at the comments and questions afterwards as well. So one thing that is really important that many of you may not have heard of is agreements. And this is something that I talk about a lot in my group. And agreements are the agreements that you have with yourself about what things in your environment mean. And that is actually what determines how you behave, is the agreement that you have with yourself. And so, I tell this story, like one really good example for me is my kids. So I have two adult daughters. They are almost 30 and 27. And then my son is almost 17. But I started noticing even a few years back that I was thinking to myself, when my kids would have problems and they would come to me, and they weren't asking me for my advice, they'd just be complaining. And I would really, want to tell them what to do, right? Because I have the experience. I'm right and they're wrong. So I wanted to save them from making mistakes. And so I would be like, well, here's what you need to do. And sometimes they didn't want to do that, and it would turn them off. And then they get mad at me. And then I'd feel like, well, I'm not being a good mom because they're not doing what I'm telling them to do. So what, do they not trust me? Do they not think that I have good advice? And so it was causing a problem between me and my kids, because I was always trying to get them to do what I thought they should do. And what I realized was that was a problem with an agreement I was having with myself. And the agreement was, you can only be a good parent if your kids are listening to you and following your advice. And that the only way to be a good parent was to do that, to give advice and to make sure they followed through so that they didn't make mistakes. And I realized, as I was writing this down, I realized that's not realistic and it's not true. And so I changed my agreement to, instead of I agree that I'm a bad parent because they're not listening to my advice, then my agreement became, I am a good parent because I'm a good listener. I am a good parent because my kids trust me. I am a good parent because I give advice when I'm asked, and that I'm supportive and allow my kids to make mistakes. That's the truth of the matter. And so once I changed my agreement with myself, every time I was in that situation, I remembered my new agreement. And my relationship with my kids has gotten so much better because of that. And you can apply that to so many areas of your life. And so that's just one example of agreements that we have. I talked to, someone last week, a client who, her parents, she's my age, I'm 51, so she's similar age to me. And her parents still put her down, and she finds herself being really, really defensive with them, like trying to defend herself. And I said, you have an agreement that just because they say something about you means it's true, and you have to defend yourself. I'm like, you could just not defend yourself because it's not true. And so I repeated to her what they said. Is this true? She's like, well, of course not. I'm like, then you don't have to defend yourself. So these are the types of things where agreements can be so, so powerful in your life. So I'm wondering, and definitely chime in on, in the chat, what agreements you feel like you have with yourself, or if you have had any aha moments in this area. But I'm wondering for you guys, Joanne and LT, what agreements did you have with yourself before that have changed now?
Well, I think the first time I heard about these agreements was from you. So mine was a pretty intense moment when I realized what agreement I had had in my head all along. And I had probably been in the program for a good 7 or 8 months before this aha moment came along. And it was because you had been telling me, it's time to stop living small. It's time to get your self-confidence back. It's time to do. And I always was resistant to that because of this big agreement. And the agreement, because I had a really kind of a bad childhood. I grew up in domestic violence, like severe domestic violence. And before that was with my mom and my stepdad. And before that, my parents were divorced when I was 4 because my dad was an alcoholic and a drug addict. So there was a lot of instability and a lot of people coming and going, like you'd be there on Sunday waiting for dad to pick you up and he didn't show up. Or you'd be there, like you didn't know what you were going to walk home from school and find, is anybody going to be home? Are the cops going to be at my house? Like it was just a lot of instability. And I was shifted around a lot between my mom, my dad, my grandma. And so the agreement that I realized I had was that I was easy to walk away from. And as a kid, you don't realize that. But when I had that aha moment, I was like, holy crap, that's why I'm such a people pleaser. Like that became for me my mission to not want, to make it so people didn't want to walk away from me. People didn't want to leave. So I became a major people pleaser. And that over the years is exhausting. So when I realized that's why I was keeping myself small, because I wasn't focused on me or making my goals. I was focused on helping everybody else reach their goals and be who they were going to be best at. And I was just going to be over here, helping them get to their goals, because then they wouldn't leave, or then they would approve of me or whatever. And when I realized that that was just a crap agreement that I had in my head, I was like, wait a minute, what have I been doing all this time? What have I been doing? And that's when the game changed. And that's honestly, I had a 180 at that moment.
Yeah. I remember talking to you about just setting boundaries with people in your life who are not respecting you.
Mm-hmm.
Because it also makes you, when you have that type of agreement with yourself, and I grew up in an abusive home as well, it makes you choose people who you feel you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
And you have people in your life that you feel like, well, this is the best I can do. You're not consciously thinking that.
No.
But that's the script that's running.
And that's the frustrating part, because then I would be like, why am I in this situation? why am
Right.
I in this crappy job? Why am I letting these people talk to me? And I would get frustrated with myself. And, you know, it was just a vicious cycle. And but I didn't know that it was because I had made that agreement. And once I knew, it was like the lights went on and I was like, oh my God, what have I been doing?
Right, because some of these scripts have, or most of them, honestly, have been running since you were little. And
Yeah,
so you don't even question them. This is
right,
just
right.
your belief, it's your belief system. And so you don't even question it. What about you, LT?
Well, I definitely grew up in a dysfunctional home, that's for sure. It wasn't abusive the way that y'all are talking about, but it was definitely dysfunctional. And I think that there was always a facade, and it always had to be that everything was cool, calm, and collected on the outside, even though it may be total chaos behind the scenes. And so I carried that on into adulthood, that I'm always going to look the part and do the part and try to be the part. And I'm going to do this for you and you and you, because that's what's going to bring me worthy. But behind the scenes was turmoil. And the bottom line was I was just breaking promises to myself all of the time, and what I was going to start or what I was going to do. And that's why I was up and down with this weight for the better part of 30 years. And I have shared with y'all that I've been a journal writer for most of my life. And I just brought out one of my little journals, didn't have to even look far to see it. And I think this is just going to cinch. I'm going to read just a little excerpt. I wrote this in 2004. Okay, so this would have been 16 years ago. I would have been in my mid 30s, and I had two small children at the time, a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I said, I need to start again to try to make some sense of things. I've not had a good day today. I'm still struggling with my weight so much. It seems out of control. Things are too hard, they're too much, and I never get there because I'm so addicted to carbs, sugary and bready and fatty things. And I look for times to eat, and it's always on my mind. And this depression is a struggle. I guess it's just human nature to see the bad and not comment on the good. I'm overwhelmed with my problems, and I feel like I'm never going to be truly happy because I don't know how. I gravitate towards the negative, and if things are going good, I almost hold my breath because surely it won't stay that way. I have no self-esteem. My self-image is tied to my body image, which is the pits. What is wrong with me? Why do I sabotage myself? Why can't I be happy? Why can't I look at what I have and be overcome with gratitude? I need to change. That is one excerpt. And if I flip the pages through the multiple journals I've written over my life, you're going to see almost a carbon copy of something written like that. And I think that my mentality was, why me? And when I flipped the script of why not me, that's when things started to change.
Right.
Because I said, I can do this. I can really get a hold of this and change this. And once I broke that food addiction that I had, I was cooking with gas then. I was ready to go.
So one of the things you brought up too that I think is so important is appearances. So the
Yeah.
way you were raised, you mentioned that there was all kinds of stuff going on behind the scenes, but it had to be very much, you know, like
Oh, yes.
Beaver Cleaver
It was.
on the outside. And so that's something else I think the reason that we are doing this talk show, the reason that, you know, our group is so successful is because we can be real with one another.
Right.
And I think we do find that a lot, especially, I feel like, especially with women, that we're not maybe honestly saying what's going on behind the scenes. And we're always just trying to make it appear because of that super truth that women have to be able to do it all, be successful at doing it all, and look good while they're doing it. And so you feel like a failure if you admit that things are hard or things aren't going well. And that only makes it worse, you know, over time. And so what would you say, LT, then? So what was your agreement then that's different now? Like the actual agreement that was going on in your head, that was holding you back.
That turned it around for me.
Yeah. What did you think out of all of that? What was the old agreement? Was it that was holding you back?
Yeah. That I'm a failure, that I'm going to start and stop something. And it's just going to be repeat because you're not going to live up to anything. And you always break a promise to yourself. And, you know, if we had a friend that did this to us, that constantly bailed on you and had an excuse, like, I'd rather watch TV than do something with you, or
Yeah.
I would rather, you know, clean out a closet than go. I mean, if you really had somebody that told you something repeatedly, and then they had this great and glorious thing, oh, you got to try this is gonna be the great thing, and then 2 weeks later they're like, you know what, I don't even like that anymore, I'm doing this now. And that's constantly what I was doing. I was flip-flopping and trying to find my hope in something, and then just getting my hopes dashed and disappointed. So I never broke out of the cycle. So I had no agreement with myself other than you're not good enough, and you're going to fail.
I think that is a really great point, because a lot of the women that I talk to will say to me things like, I really want to start your program, but I gotta wait till I get my mind right. And it's like they're just waiting for that to magically happen. And I know what they're saying, because sometimes we do get a burst of motivation, and we're like, yeah, and we do keto for 3 months, and then we gain the weight back, though. So I get what they're saying, is they're trying to get motivated, but that is not the same as working on changing your thinking so you can be successful long term.
Yeah, that's right.
And so therefore it's up and down and up and down, and so they don't trust themselves. And that's why it's so important when we talk about how these diet industries are designed to fail. And for those of you who haven't been in my world for very long, what we're doing here is a lifestyle, and it definitely works for weight loss, but it's just so much more than that, because it's not based on some quick fix that you're not going to be able to sustain. It's about real lifestyle change and being happier as a person. So one thing that has really helped, and I think that people don't understand how powerful it is, probably because they don't really understand what it is mantras. And I'm certainly going to fall into that category. And if you haven't, I read a book by Joe Dispenza that I cannot remember the name of it, but he has a lot of books out there, and they're all pretty much on the same topic. So you can go and look him up. But he talks about rewiring your brain. And that was the first time that I really realized what a mantra is trying to do. When you are meditating and when you are adopting mantras, what are you actually trying to do? Because before that, meditating to me was like sitting on my yoga mat trying to not think about anything, and that's impossible, right? And meditation looks different for everybody, by the way. So you can have a moving meditation, like Tai Chi could be your meditation. You could have a walking meditation. I used to do that. And so I realized too that meditation wasn't in this narrow little category that I thought it was. But mantras are about rewiring those negative thoughts. And so in order to do that, you actually have to tune in to see what the negative thoughts are. So those are the kinds of questions that I ask in the program to try to figure out what is actually happening behind the scenes in your brain that's making you feel like you can't succeed. And those are those thoughts that say, like Lori said, this is just going to be another yo-yo where I'm going to do this for a while. And you may not be, again, consciously thinking that when you sign up for something, but behind the scenes, you're just waiting for something, to throw you off course. Or it might be, I'm never going to get that promotion. I'm just not talented enough to do this. Like Lori, you mentioned going out, for theater, like doing, stuff that we just, like, I was never picked for anything. I was not good at sports. I wasn't ever in sports. And so in middle school and high school, it was humiliating because I would get picked last because I just flatly sucked at everything. And, so then when I got into fitness, I felt it was weird to be like, I did the Warrior Dash and, to even become a runner and things like that, because I just didn't feel like that wasn't me. And so somehow I felt like that's for other people. Yeah. Thus the fact I didn't start running till I was 47, right? Because I was just like, well, that's for other people and I can help people reach their goals, but that's not me. So there's so many of these negative things that hold us back. So mantras, what they do is they pinpoint those and they actually shift that to a different saying that is going through your head, and it's like reprogramming. And so when you are constantly, you do this in meditation and through mantras, you're reprogramming that thinking so that you're not, because if you actually believe, and many of us do, that you're going to start something and not be able to finish it, whatever it is, then I can guarantee you're going to start it and not finish it, because you've already decided that before it even happens. And so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, the caveat to this, when you talk about diet and things like that, is that there's just some stuff out there that's designed to fail. And the shaken supplements, we got to be realistic. You're not going to do that forever. You're not going to do keto forever. You're not going to, so we also have to be realistic as well. But still, when it comes to most things, we just are so down on ourselves. So I wondered, definitely the mantras have changed my life. And I will give a quick example. So when I lost my weight, I was also very ill. My cholesterol was 285. My triglycerides were almost 600. I had tendinitis and bursitis. And I mean, literally, when I say this, in all my joints, I was getting shots in my elbows and in my hips. My thumb was frozen in place. I was on medication. I had severe chronic fatigue. I was also having all kinds of other weird symptoms. And so as I was losing the weight, and my mantra was, instead of worrying that the weight was going to come back or worrying that this wasn't going to work, I knew I was on the right path. So my mantra was, my body is getting healthier and slimmer every day. I am healing myself. Mm-hmm. And I would say that. So my thing was, every time I go to the bathroom, like I look in the mirror and I would say it. Mm-hmm. And because I have to pee a lot, that was all day long. So drink a lot of water. So I would always say it. And so it just got to be this thing that was constantly, then after a while, you don't have to like really think about it because it's just running. The script is running. I'm healing myself. It's running. Mm-hmm. And so that is a big part of what a mantra is about. And I'll touch on meditation here in a second. But for you guys, how have mantras changed your thinking?
Well, I think I came up with my mantra in the first week, because I've said it before that when I did the juice cleanse, I was so scared to do that because I'd never done anything that healthy or that.
All the time. I hear it all the time. And just for you guys out there who are listening to this, the juice cleanse is not a fast. This is just doing 2 juices a day with food. So it's not anything crazy. So, but it is, I do hear that a lot. People are like, I'm scared. I've never done this, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and it's only 5 days. So if you think about it, it's like, it's only 5 days, but when you've never done anything consistently healthy for 5 days in a row, that's it's almost hard to even imagine it. But the other part of it was, so I got to like day 3 and I was like, I'm doing this. Like, I'm actually doing this. And I already had started to feel better because, when you're on that yo-yo of just up and down, eating all the garbage, even 3 days of getting that poison out of your system, you feel like a new person, honestly. And so I started to notice, I feel really good. This is great. I have lots of energy. And so my mantra was, I didn't come this far to only come this far, because it goes back to that agreement that I have always had with, I'm easy to walk away from. So once you start feeling that and it starts incorporating into your life, you start to leave first. You start to be the one to escape first. When the going gets tough, I'm out. Like, I'm out. That's it. Because I'm not going to let you let me down. I'm going to let myself down first. Yeah. So I think that's when I picked that mantra, I was like, you know what? I didn't come this far. I'm doing this. I didn't come only 3 days to only make it 3 days. I'm going to make it 5 days. And then I made it 5 days and I'm like, I did it. I got through a whole phase. And I'm glad that you made it short, because it gave me the idea that I actually started and finished something. Confidence. And that I did it. Like, I felt like a superhero at the end of that week. And I would do the same thing as you then. When I started to feel my body healing, I looked in the mirror every day and I'm like, I'm healing my body. I am a healthy person, which I could have never said before. I never felt healthy. I had the same chronic fatigue, the pain. all of it. I had all the same things, and it's all because of what I was putting in my body and my mental state, and it all goes together. So once I changed that, every little thing I did gave me that next milestone of, I did this, I made it this far, now I've cut this out, now I've done this, and now I'm actually starting to, see my cheekbones again, or my collarbone, and I didn't want to give that up. So I didn't come this far to only come this far, and I want to follow it through to see how far I can get, because now it's kind of like a fun little science experiment.
Well, and now when you look in the mirror, even more so, like every day, even it hits home even more. I am a
Yes.
healthy person.
I am a healthy person.
And so that thing that you started,
Mhm.
well over a year ago or whenever,
Mhm.
it is
Mhm.
now, that's just part of who you are. It's
Mhm.
part of the fabric of who you are.
Mhm.
Um, and that's
And
the
it came
great thing.
true. Like I said it every day, and it came true. Instead of
It's
saying, I'm not worthy, I'm easy to walk away from, I don't finish what I start. And when I stopped doing that and started saying the positive thing, that's what came true. Because easily that other stuff was already coming true, because that's what the script was.
That's right. All right. What about you, LT?
Yeah, I had the same. I had such a negative mindset before, and it was like I had said, it was a why me type thing. It always came back to that. And when I switched my mantra to be a more positive and to attract what I really wanted to become into my life, that's when things really started changing. And I told myself over and over again that my future success is hidden in my daily routine, because I truly believe it's about choice. And we all have choices. And I just caved and made poor choices and gave up way too quick.
Mhm.
And this time I just gave myself a little bit more allowance and a little bit more leeway. And I said, I really can do this, and I can do this today. And I'm not going to talk about yesterday, and I'm not going to worry about tomorrow. I can do this today. So I started, that's why I said, my future success is hidden in my daily routine. Another one that I tell myself over and over again is that I am becoming the person who I want to be.
Mhm.
Because, we all have that little vision of who we really wanted to be on the horizon, that
Mhm.
future self. And
Oh,
it seems
yeah.
so unattainable at the time. But not only is it not unattainable, it's wonderful when you finally get to meet her again.
Mhm.
Right.
And you're thinking, this feels comfortable, and this really is right. And this is
Yeah.
how it was supposed to be.
Mhm.
And it just makes everything fall into place, and not just with food, but I'm talking about all cylinders of your life, your relationships, your friendships, the way that you talk, carry yourself, the way you interact. It's just, this is who you really wanted to be all along.
Right. Yeah, I was talking to a client yesterday who, she actually hasn't been in the program very long. And the first conversation that I had with her, because she has a mindset package with me, and the first conversation I had was very typical. Like a lot of the first conversations that I have with people, because I've been doing this for a long time, you kind of know what to expect. And then the second conversation I had with her was like a totally different person, because she really got it. And so she not only has she just adapted this way of living, but she started thinking differently. And when she started thinking differently, this opportunity came to her out of nowhere. But she said the same thing. She was like, I just knew right away that it was right, that this was the
Mhm.
time and it was right. And everybody in my life was like, of course, this is what you're meant to do. And so it was just a really great example of the way things come together when you start valuing yourself.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so she is just so excited. She was actually in tears about how excited and happy she is about this. And so, and she was talking about how in the past, her family was always like, whenever she would start a new diet, they'd try to be supportive, but, we've all been there. They're rolling their eyes behind the scenes like, oh God,
Mhm.
here we go again. And she's got people in her family not only supporting her, but getting on board.
Mhm.
And so it's really great when you can, see the way that you're changing. It's filtering out, and it's changing the people around you, how they react to you, because when you change, your dynamic with them changes.
Mhm.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And so that's the, you know, I always tell people it's like a domino effect. You know, it starts with your eating and it trickles out from there.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's exciting. And one thing I wanted to say about meditation. So when I meditate, you know, it is about visualizing. So I visualize that person in that life that I want for myself. And I feel, since I have been doing that, and I infuse that with a lot of gratitude. Like, instead of this sort of it being this pie in the sky goal, it's like, this is happening, you know, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful to be becoming the person I was always meant to be. And so it's made me more grateful in my life overall. It's just infused my whole life with gratitude. And I think that's what mantras and meditation can really do, if you're committed to it. And I was not. For a very long time. People were like, "Oh, you should meditate." I'm like, "Okay," you know. So, you know, it's like, you know, or the mantra thing. Like, you feel like it's that. If you've ever seen that skit with Saturday Night Live where he's looking at himself in the mirror and he's like, "And you're a good person," and you know, and it's like, it seems so
Smalley.
easy.
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
Yes,
your
yeah.
gosh darn it, people like me. Oh
That's
gosh,
right.
that killed me.
That's what I thought it was, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's different when you're actually doing it.
It
And
is. Yeah.
but yeah, it's life changing.
He was in
So
a 12-step group to get out of a 12-step group. I mean, he was just, that was so funny. But
it
you know,
was.
it does. And it kind of can seem hokey at first when you start, but then, and I even remember when I very first started doing mantras, you know, it was kind of like when I first started saying, I'm going to become the person I've always meant to be. And then I would say, I'm going to become the person I've always meant to be. I'm becoming the person I'm always meant to be. I mean, it just kind of just keeps on going like that.
It does, because, well, the first thing you start noticing when you and these can also be called like affirmations, because you can have more than one. You know, I have like 6. And so you start to notice when you're not thinking that way.
Yeah.
So if you are, you know, if my mantra is, I am if my body is healing itself, and then I start to be like, oh, this is never going to happen for me. I'm, you know, like I had a day when I wasn't feeling well or something, that I'd be like, no, my body is healing itself. You know what I mean? So I would start to notice first when I wasn't doing it. And then you can change your thoughts in real time. And that's when it really starts to get going. It starts to be a positive, you know, snowball effect. Kat says, Lori and LT looking great in your pumpkin sweaters. I cannot wear that color at all. So now she's.
Well, then you couldn't be an Auburn fan, because this is our color.
Oh, dang it, Kat. That's sorry. You can't be an Auburn fan now. But we've got her craving a sweet potato. So there you go.
Good.
Mission accomplished.
Good.
Okay, so one of the other, I think, really, really important topics is alignment. So when you are not doing things that are in alignment with what you want, that feels awful. I mean, let's just face it. So you're like, here's what I want, right? And then all of your actions are off going this way. And it feels like, okay, I'm reneging on my commitment to myself all the time. I can't trust myself. And when you can't trust yourself, I mean, it sucks when you can't trust other people. When you can't trust yourself, that is a horrible, horrible feeling. So alignment is not only about goals, it's about your beliefs as well. And so we've all done things that go against, you know, what we really believe. And so it's, you know, not only, you know, saying you're going to eat healthy and then diving into a bag of chips. It can be saying you're not going to go back to a bad relationship and then doing it anyway. It can be even like one thing that was exciting, and I hadn't really thought that much about it until I actually did it, was, you know, I have always been an animal lover, like always. And I just had this cognitive dissonance when it came to eating animals, even though I knew about how awful the industry was and things like that. It was just sort of like, well, I mean, this is what we do. And I still just, I really loved animals, but I was still contributing to that industry. And so
Mhm.
when I stopped eating them, it was like, oh, now I'm in alignment because this is actually what I believe. And now I'm actually in alignment with that. And so it was so great to be like, to not have to do these mental acrobats anymore to try to justify what I was doing. So alignment comes in a lot of different ways. It can be in relationships, it can be in your core beliefs, and it could just be with your actions. So how are you more in alignment now than you were before, with your goals and also with your true self?
I think my alignment has just progressed and made its own way because I've taken the first step in the direction I wanted to go, and that was with my eating. And once I always think about that video you did about the triad and how we have to get our physicality and our mind
Absolutely
and our
feeling.
and
Yeah,
all of
action.
that together. And so I think getting my eating right first helped me to get in alignment with just having that control back over my mind. And then I feel like just doing that put me on a trajectory that I wasn't on before. When I started to get back that confidence in myself that I could actually, get my hormones in check and not be reactive about things. And I just started to go down a path where I opened myself up to being a learner and not being so resistant, because another part of that whole trauma response is being overly independent and not
Yeah,
listening to anybody. So the day I quit doing that and the day that I started allowing myself to be open to what the universe had for me in store,
yes.
it really changed the game. And growing up like the way I did, I had always pictured myself, either I always was adventurous, but that kind of got stifled down because I didn't have confidence. And then as I got older, I thought, maybe I'd like to be a substance abuse counselor, because it was so important to me, to
Yeah.
help people get off of any kind of substances. And then also I wanted to empower women because, growing up like that, I was like, I wanted to either be some kind of a domestic violence counselor or something, but I was so overwhelmed with life and I had such fatigue and I didn't want to go back to school after all those years of doing school. I didn't want to do it again to get a different degree. And so I just took the step and joined your program, and you started building my self-esteem, and then I started building my own self-esteem, and it's led me now to doing those two exact things. I'm helping people break addictions and I'm empowering women. So
Yeah.
it's like it's come full circle, and it's because I've allowed it to happen instead of being resistant to every single thing that comes my way.
Or trying to make it happen. I think
Yeah.
that's something else I've talked to people about is we're like, here's what I want. And it just seems like such a struggle because you're
It
trying to
is.
make it happen
Mm-hmm.
and it's so hard. And then, but somehow when you actually start to change your thinking and yourself, what you're doing is you're allowing it to happen the way it's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to.
Yes.
And that is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So that even when, like, we have a lot of things going on right now with my business that are exhausting and, challenging, but it's all great stuff that I love.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's still exhilarating and
Mm-hmm.
it's still amazing and it's still, we're so happy. And that's what it's like when you're just allowing things to unfold
Mm-hmm.
the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And so I think that is something that we kind of joke around because my thing in the group is I'll allow it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we because
Yep.
instead of trying to change things you can't change,
Right.
that is the basis of the serenity prayer, and it's true no matter, the truth is that you have to accept the things that you cannot change.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do have to have courage to change the things that you can, but you have to know the difference between the two. I mean, that is, and so what happens is people don't have the courage to change the things that they can change. And so they're beating their head up against the wall trying to change the things they can't.
Right.
And
Right.
when you allow things to happen, and you're working on yourself, it's such a game changer. So in terms of alignment, LT, what is different with your goals now and how you feel aligned with your true self?
Yeah, my word that I focus in on a lot is authentic. And it's not lost on me that I grew up in a facade, and now the word that I choose is authentic. And I really think that's always who I've wanted to be. I've always wanted to be is what you see is what you get. I've always wanted to be a helpful, kind, generous, build somebody up. But I treated myself worse than you would talk to a dog. I mean, and I would never say that to other people, what I used to say to myself, never. And so once I started being a little bit more kind to myself, and once I got rid of this food addiction and started really feeling better and seeing the possibilities, I saw alignment after alignment. And it just all of a sudden it became very crystal clear when I was just so fuzzy for the longest time. And this was still with a bulk of my weight to lose. I'm saying in the early days of this, that I just started becoming very, very crystal clear. And then if you had told me before, I would have thought it's all about the weight, what's on the scale, what's the number, and now I'm telling you that weight on the number is one component. It is one component. I'm just feeling so much better in so many other areas. And I truly feel like that's what it's meant to do, is what Joanne said. Now I'm helping somebody and it's come full circle. This 30 years of me being up and down was not wasted. I feel like that I have got a purpose. I feel like that it is my mission to help and to guide and to just kind of be able to say, I understand. I remember what that was like. I remember going to a counselor one time and being so despondent, and she just kind of put her pad down and she looked at me and she said, "This weight is really the albatross around your neck." I said, "It really is." I mean, I just could not break free of it. I was just, I may have a little short-term little reprieve, but then I was back on it again. And I mean, it just kind of plays with your spirit. It knocks you down. And I just feel like even if I have a bad day, it's still not near a bad day.
Right.
It's like I've got hope. I can go. I can shake stuff off so much easier than I could shake it off before.
I remember exactly what you're talking about when you first started the program, because I remember our initial conversation and you talking about the amount of weight you wanted to lose. For those of you out there watching who don't know, LT has lost 70 pounds. And I remember, though, being really surprised after the first few weeks when you would say, "Yes, I lost another pound and a half or whatever," but that's not the best part. Like, you weren't focused on that. And I was like, at first I was a little suspicious. I was like, what is she saying there? Which I knew the feeling that you were talking about, but it happened so fast. You were like, so focused on it when we started. And then all of a sudden it's like, that's not really my focus. I'm focusing on the fact that I just feel so much better.
Yes, I was desperate for change. And if you had told me to jump, I was going to say, how high do you want me to jump? Because I was just primed and ready for you. I mean, I was on the cusp of my 50th birthday. I was in a boot, and we were right in the beginning stages of COVID where I had put on some weight, and I was just screaming, "Help, help, help." And I got a different vibe with you, and I ran with it. And you have proven me true every single turn of the way. And I've told you many, many times, and I'll keep telling you, I am eternally grateful to you. My life is completely different, completely changed. It really is.
It's gonna make me cry.
I think the key here is we all need to be in a boot, because I was in a boot too right before. Like, go break your leg or something and get in a boot, and then Lori will come into your life magically.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think it's a combination of, you do have to be, open to it. You don't have to believe in yourself that you can do this. No one is going to start off that way. That is the whole point of us doing the mindset work. But you have to at least believe, like what I believed at the beginning was, if this is available to other people, if this lifestyle is changing people's lives, then it's
Yeah.
available to them, it's available to me. That's
Yep.
all
Right.
I
That's
started with.
Mhm.
And then we'll help you from there to get to the next level. And Kathleen says, I think in a way we are all in a metaphorical boot, which is
Yes.
true.
Yes, it is.
It's
So if
true.
you feel like you're in a metaphorical boot, this is also the time to do it. So can you, because you touched on authenticity, LT,
Mm-hmm.
and that is so important to feel like you can really be yourself, because it's really interesting. I think before we had this process going on, I know at least for me, I was trying to be somebody else, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I had this sort of vision of this person that wasn't me. And that's why it felt so unattainable, I think.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
The very cool thing about it is that it is actually becoming the most you.
It
Mhm.
is.
And that is the part that was surprising to me. It's
Mhm.
not that I'm becoming somebody else, I'm becoming more me.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Which, when you start with having like kind of low self-esteem and feeling down on yourself, you don't think that's what it's going to be. You want to become
Mm-hmm.
less you and more something else.
Right. Yeah.
That's right.
So how would you, I know this is kind of a difficult question, but how can you describe or put any verbiage to the process of becoming the best and most authentic version of yourself?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say about it?
I think it's just being quiet and stop trying, like, not trying to, like you said, live up to all those other things. And because most of us, I would probably bet most people are doing exactly that. And when you stop trying to be all those other things that you think are going to make you happy, and you just like look within yourself and go, what are my real truths, and what do I really want? um and of course, go read Glennon Doyle's Untamed, of course.
Right.
Then I feel like that's the key to where the real change happens, when you start to understand all the things you've been trying for. That's not even what you wanted in the first place. It's becoming your own true self. It doesn't look like what you think it does. It doesn't look like that at all. It's just like LT said, it's so comfortable. Finally, after all these years of trying to please the world and trying to be and do something you're not, when you really trust yourself, it's a whole different world.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. What
And what
about
I
you?
had done was my mind was so flooded with the negativity, and it was so flooded with what is wrong with me, and why can't I, and why did I wear this, and why did I even go? It was so flooded with that. So when I took that big chunk of that brain and that all those thoughts away, that's when I started seeing all of the possibilities. And I just flooded myself with the support and with the positive mindset and learning all that I could, not only about food, but about my body and how it functioned and what's going to be better. And when I felt so much better, and it just felt right, and it felt true, and it felt real, and it felt a certain contentedness with it. It was that's why we use the word content. It was beyond a happy. It was, because you can make yourself happy on any given day for short periods of time. This was a layer of contentedness. And as we've said before, nothing else around the world in my immediate world was different. I was different.
Yeah.
Everything about me was different, and that's why I truly feel like I am seeing things with new eyes, and it's why I have so much hope for the future and so much excitement about things, and it's why I feel like I'm just at this age of 50, and I feel like I have a second act, and I have this youth and this vitality, and I just feel like that I'm not restricted in any sort of way. And before, I just hampered myself, and I just put myself in, I did not put myself in situations. I held back. I didn't speak. I didn't say, I didn't want to draw attention. And that's just gone now.
Yeah.
It really is.
they say youth is wasted on the young.
That's right.
And I definitely, I
Yeah.
feel that now. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I get that now, because I wish I would have had this kind of mindset and health when I was in my 20s and in my
Yeah.
30s. You know, it was,
Sure.
but I was just, like you said, your vision is so cloudy.
Yeah.
And so it is really, it feels so awesome to go into this phase of your life feeling excited, and
Yeah.
feeling yourself, feeling like I'm excited about who I am and what my possibilities and what my
Right.
future is when you're this age. It's exciting. And so what advice would you give someone who feels like they're in a hole? Because I talk a lot about, I think that we can all relate to that feeling like you're in a hole you can't get out of, or feeling stuck. And we kind of go on for years like that. And you, like, you know, we'll make a little progress and fall back down in. You know, what advice would you give them now, as opposed, like, what would you have said a few years ago? If somebody came to you and said, "Oh, I feel so stuck." If they were you, like, what advice, how has your advice changed, do you think?
Hmm.
Probably a few years ago, I would have just commiserated with them and been like, yeah, this sucks. Like, what, I would have, because I didn't know how to get out
Let's
of my
go to
own
Dairy
hole.
Queen. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, now that I'm on the other side and I'm out of that hole, I would tell them, like, look, no matter what you think, you dug your own hole. You dug your own hole, and stop right now. Stop digging, put the shovel down, because as much as we want to blame all of this on other people, we let, even if the other people are doing bad things to us, we let them do it because we don't have boundaries.
Right.
Nobody, you don't get born into this world with the agreement that, you have to be somebody's doormat. You allow that to happen. And when you can say, no more, I'm not a doormat, I'm not living somebody else's life, the day you stop digging is the day you can start getting out of that hole. So today, like, start today and get out of that hole. And if you don't know how to, reach out to somebody. Even if it's not one of us, reach out to somebody and say, I'm ready to make a change to get out of this. Pull me out, or help me get out, because when you're on the other side and you look back, and you never did think you were going to get out of there, but you absolutely can. And I have, like, this little sticker you gave us in our planners. This is one of the things that I always tell myself: I am the hero of this story.
Yeah.
And you can be the hero of your own story, and it starts today. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would definitely say do not prolong anything, and start today, and don't underestimate, like I did, severely underestimate food addiction. Because once I got free of that cycle and I broke it, that's when things really started kicking in. I severely underestimated how addicted I was. And when I started thinking clear, things started falling into place. And I'm telling y'all, it started falling into place when I had a lot of weight still to lose. And it just got better, and it got better, and it got better. And to think that I can go in a store and just pick up a size and put it on and go, that I wanted, it's unbelievable to me. I still kind of think, I can't even believe I can wear this, but I can. And I'm telling you, it just beats everything you've ever seen. And when you have that connection with people and you really hear them and you're in the present with them, because you're not always wondering how you're looking or how you're coming across or fiddling with your clothes, you can really be present. You can really deepen a lot of relationships that you have, because you have cleared your mind of all of that junk that always came back to you. and me and why me and look at me and blah, blah. You know,
Yeah.
just get rid of that.
Yeah, that filter. Yeah, it's that filter that you're seeing, just kind of
Yes.
goes back to what we said right at the beginning,
Yes.
which is you're seeing life through a filter of your agreements with yourself.
Yes.
And when you are able to unload that, it is such a
Oh,
freedom for your body and your
it
mind
is
and
more
your
than you can
relationship.
imagine. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
really more than you can imagine. Because I will say, while I have lost weight in the past, as like I said, I've been on these programs and I've lost where I am now, I don't even hold a candle to the way I was before. I am so much better in every way than when I was, because I've been this size before. I have, but I'm telling you, I wasn't like this. My whole mindset, my whole shift, my whole way of thinking is completely different than it was before. And I think it's because I don't have a fear that I'm going back, because I'm doing so well as I am now. Why would I ever want to go back? And I'm not deprived at all. And I'm enjoying what I'm eating, and I'm satisfied and I'm fulfilled. And, and it's like I say, it's way beyond the number on the scale. There's
Right.
so many boxes to check.
Right. It is it is a transformation.
Yeah.
And, the reason that my program is lifetime membership is because it is a journey. You may lose the weight right at the beginning, but you're still on the journey. And I want everyone to have that community and that support the whole time that we're doing it. Linda says, living the life we were meant to live, right?
Yes.
So we all feel that way in the group, that it's just an exciting, community. And it's exciting to see the great things that people are doing because now they have the courage to do them.
Yeah.
And they're feeling good, physically and mentally. But, but I come back to this a lot because it made such an impact on me. But Albert Einstein, I saw a quote by him that said, "It's not that I'm so much smarter, it's that I stick with problems longer." And that kind of, it's really just about, that's what we do in the group. We stick with it, and we help you to stick with it, so that you can become the very best version of yourself. And that's the goal. It's not that number on the scale. That part, that's because the weight is a symptom. So the weight comes off. It's a great, nutrition plan. The food is delicious, all of that. But it's really about just becoming the best version of you that you can be. And it's such a celebration of all these different women, that we have in our group that are all very different, but yet all celebrating one another. So that's really what it's all about. So, and I would say, in terms of the advice, I think what I would have done, years ago is just, I only knew the model that we all knew, which is like, well, have you tried this?
Right.
Have you tried Weight Watchers? Have you tried,
Yeah.
because you don't really know what to do. Have you gone to therapy? Have you, different things? And I'm not saying, that it's bad to go to therapy, but I'm just saying that, we all kind of have these go-tos in our society. And, we have to start thinking outside of the box.
Yeah.
And because a lot of what we're doing is just not really helping us. It's putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound.
Yeah.
And so that's what I, going back to what you said too, Joanne, like the advice that I would give somebody now is that, if you're in a hole, the first thing to do is stop digging.
Right.
So, and yeah, and then really be real with yourself, about the, investing in yourself. And not just trying to slap a Band-Aid on it and move on. So I hope that everyone out there has gotten a lot out of this, because what you don't realize about yourself is that you are amazing, and that there's only one of you for a reason. And
Mhm.
your journey here is about becoming the most you can be, the most authentic version of yourself, because that's when you can really, when you're really healthy and you're really content, like your gifts are coming through.
Mhm.
And when that happens, that just lights up the world around you. All
Yeah.
of our relationships have been changed. You know, it's just such an exciting thing to see happen. Susie says you have to take care of yourself before you can help someone else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when your cup is full, then the way that you give to others is just incredible and so different. So thank you all for tuning in today. I hope that you got a lot out of this and that you really see that things can be different, and that you are an amazing person. And just because you might think differently right now doesn't mean it's true. You can change
Right.
your comments with yourself, and you can change your life. So thanks for tuning in. Have an amazing weekend, and we will see you next week.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.